us, good old TJ.
Konnichiwa, News Squad Boy INCOG, back with another reaction video, and today, guys, we're doing another Type Moon video. This is part of the Fate series, like another little verse in the Fate universe. Anyway, this one is for Shiki Tohno. I think that's how you say it. It's Shiki Tohno. This video is 50 minutes long, so we ain't gonna make this intro too long, and I'm not gonna be pausing that at all. So once I start the video is where we're gonna be just reacting to it within the video, and I might just give me some thoughts at the end of it. But like I said, it's a 50-some minute video, so yeah, I'm not really trying to pause too much for you guys. It's gonna be like an hour plus long video. Anyway, guys, before we get to it, guys, like the video, share the video, we share cool stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, trying to hit that 1K subscriber mark. Yeah, and without further ado. Oh, also as well, guys, made a TikTok. Go ahead and follow it, Incognito Ace. And yeah, without further ado, guys, let's get right into this. It's gonna be hefty of a video, so play.
A quick thank you to all of my patrons. Your support is heavily appreciated.
Spoilers for the Shiki Melty Blood.
Suddenly, I awaken with a start. The night is pitch black, and no one else is in the house. It's scary, being alone in the dark. So to find someone, I head out into the garden.
It's funny, I remember one time when I was in the house by myself as a kid like that.
Excitement fills me,
It's scary.
anticipating the beginning of the grand play. In the distance, I hear the sound of echoes, beyond the black curtain of trees. Inside the forest, the sounds of everyone happily playing around. Unable to restrain myself, I wander into the darkness of the forest. Darkness surrounds me. A blackness so deep, it's suffocating. Not even the calming rays of the moonlight can reach this deep. The air is cold.
Dang, that statement was deep.
So deep, my eyes feel like they'll freeze. For a brief moment, I thought I heard someone call my name, so I walked deeper into the forest. After passing through the veil of trees, I find everyone waiting for me in the forest clearing. But something is wrong. Everyone is lying on the ground, in pieces.
Oh, snap.
The clearing is bathed in red.
They
A
all
stranger approaches. The look in his face says he wants to rip me apart. But someone else, someone I don't know, steps in front of me and is torn apart in my place. I'm just a kid, so I really don't understand. A splash. Something warm and wet hits my face.
blood.
It's red.
Yep.
The
Red.
person that was torn apart. That person I called Mom. Never called my name again. I really don't understand. But it is just so cruel. I wanted to cry. I just felt like crying. Warm crimson blurs my vision, seeping into my eyes. But it doesn't bother me at all. The lonely moon floats above me, bearing witness.
This is gonna be a crazy video.
It's strange.
Only 2 minutes into it.
Why didn't I realize until now? Such a cold, horrible nightmare.
But it's reality.
I didn't realize it. That tonight, the moon is so beautiful.
Hello everyone human and also non-human, and welcome to the 10th episode of Type Moon Character Showcase.
That opening was
As a quick
so
reminder to you
sad,
guys,
so
this is
powerful.
a series where I look at a character from the Nasuverse and talk all about them to explore the Nasuverse itself, regardless of their obscurity. A goal of this series is to share all the amazing ideas, characters, and lore that the Nasuverse has by focusing on a character. And I do this by looking at their backstory, their abilities, and quirks before I finish it all off with a bit of personal thoughts. Now today's video is the special 10th video, and I've saved this showcase for that because, oh, it's gonna be very big, and also very special. So without further ado, today the character we're looking at is Shiki Tohno. Now,
So what's Tohno? Okay, I
Shiki
thought
Tohno
that was
is the
wrong
main
with that.
protagonist of the visual novel Tsukihime and its sequels. And similar to Shiro Emiya from Fate Stay Night, the entire story is told from his perspective. If you somehow didn't know already, Tsukihime is the first visual novel Type Moon has ever made and was their first real massive success sales-wise. Tsukihime was such a big hit in the growing independent visual novel industry that it was what gave the company its recognition in the Japanese otaku fanbase,
Right.
as well as attracting new fans that wanted to help the group professionally, allowing it to
It's like
move
the
from a fan
blueprint
group of
for the
4 people
company.
into an actual company. Basically, everything that Type Moon is now, we all owe it to Tsukihime. This is arguably the most important work that the company owes everything to, and for good reason, as it is truly an amazing story that holds up extremely well, one you should absolutely experience for yourself if you haven't already. Now, while a lot of people recognize Tsukihime itself, the main character, Shiki Tohno, isn't a person that most people would immediately think of when you think of it, at least from what I've seen in the fandom. They usually remember
Is
one
that
of
the
the
way he
five
looks or
heroines
something?
from
Like,
the
what
first
is
image,
it?
but also don't underestimate him, as Shiki is quite an interesting character in his own right, and one that definitely holds up in comparison. You also may realize that, hey, his character is called Shiki, so he shares the same name as Shiki Ryogi from Kara no Kyokai. And yes, he does. There are 7 characters named Shiki in the Nasuverse. Welcome to Type Moon! For real though. Ryogi and Tohno
Why
share
is all of
lots
them
of
named
similarities in
Shiki,
various
though?
aspects, and Nasu has stated that both characters were developed using the same base ideas. So while watching this
Oh.
video, you may find that both share a lot of similarities between them, whilst saying that there are also just as many key differences in their characters that make them quite different as well. So while they have a lot of parts in common, they are both still extremely unique characters in their own right with their own stories to tell. A comparison would be like Okita and Okita Alter. They have some similarities due to origin, but they're essentially 2 different characters at this point.
Right.
Either way, as the main protagonist of Tsukihime,
Which is all
one
the
of
alters.
biggest
They have like
stories that the Nasuverse
similarities,
has
but
to
they're
offer,
also different.
we have a lot
No,
to
character.
cover in this episode, befitting of the series' 10th entry. This will likely be one of the biggest videos I'll have made so far, but I'll still try to cover as much of it in as short of amount of time as I can. Regardless, without further
Yeah,
ado,
we
let's take
got
a look
44
into
more
the
minutes
character
of this.
backstory of the character, Shiki Tohno. In the past, there was an organization known as the Demon Hunting Organization, a group created to destroy
DHO?
Oni and mixed bloods. It was comprised of 4 different families, each one with a different psychic ability depending on the bloodline. These families were the Fujo, Asakami, Ryogi, and Nanaya. For this video, we'll be focusing on the Nanaya, who
The
have the psychic
Nanaya,
ability
okay.
of Pure Eyes. What Pure Eyes are is that they're a psychic ability that allows people who have them to see what cannot normally be seen. There's no clear correlation between what individuals with Pure Eyes can see, so it can depend entirely from case to case. Pure Eyes should also not be mistaken for Mystic Eyes. While Mystic Eyes are created via magical circuits in Magecraft, Pure Eyes are a
Isn't that the
purely
ability that we
psychic
seen on that
ability created
trailer
destiny and
when he
fate.
like showed his eyes and it was
Usually
glowing?
by
The
people
pure
who
eyes?
have
That what that
high
was?
psychic potential and good karma. They can also be passed down through the genes of the family. As such, in order to keep their pure eyes through genes, the Nanaya family chose to commit incestuous relationships with each other to ensure that their children would be born with pure eyes. Yep, you heard me right.
Yeah, that's
The family
not
has
okay.
been committing incest for countless
Yeah, that's
generations.
just not okay. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Regardless,
I'm with
despite
you.
their
That's
questionable methods, the
Let's
Nanaya
not even get into
family
that.
was undoubtedly the most powerful
Excuse me.
of the demon hunting families. So much so that they continued battling mixed bloods as long as they existed. They created a fighting style known as the Nanaya assassination arts, which were practices that allowed the Nanaya to move
he's
at the
developed by
absolute
Nanaya
limit
family
that
that
a human
allows
body
them
should be
to
able
act
to operate on.
limited.
Their speed was so
Fight
quick
with
that if
unparalleled
mastered,
speed and
they
agility.
would be
Oh, that's pretty
so
cool.
agile that they could appear to teleport, as well as scale
Not
walls
never
and
not
dash
bad on
across ceilings.
assassins.
They focus so hard on their job as demon hunters that all the Nanaya have evolved a primal murderous instinct in them, which makes them able to sense and desire to kill all inhuman beings. With those 2 abilities in combination, the Nanaya were a deadly force that were feared by many. However, in the modern era, like most other demon hunting families, the Nanaya family has become a shadow of their former selves. As mixed bloods were now more integrated into modern society, there was no real need to hunt them down anymore, and thus the Nanaya family degraded over the ages. Eventually, Kiri Nanaya, the head of the Nanaya family at the time, sired a son, one who was named Shiki. Shiki was raised as any Nanaya would be, taught the Nanaya arts at a young age in seclusion. However, eventually, Shiki woke up in the middle of the night to find himself alone in his house. He walked out to the nearby forest and found the corpses of his entire family scattered around him in pieces. The reason this happened was because the Tohnos had attacked the Nanaya family with the help of Kishima Koma, as they were a mixed blood family who feared the Nanaya would kill them eventually. Shiki was nearly killed as well, but his mother stepped in the way of Koma at the last second, resulting in her murder right in front of Shiki.
So that's like basically like with the Uchiha clan with the Henley village. Like they thought the Uchiha was going to like stage a coup and like kill him, but like they end up beating him to the punch basically.
Decided to spare and adopt him as his own. The
Imagine that
reason
though.
being,
It's
Shiki
crazy.
shared the same name as his
Wake
own
up
son,
and
another
go see
boy
your
named
family in
Shiki.
peace like that.
As such, Shiki Nanaya was brought into the Tohno household to live with other servants in a traditional Japanese house on the side, and he was brought up with a red-haired girl who often played with him. Of course, they wouldn't just play alone, but also with the Tohno siblings, those being Shiki Tohno himself and his younger sister Akiha Tohno. The four would often play together during their childhood and become good friends with each other. However, while the two Shikis and Akiha were playing on a hot summer day, Shiki Tohno suddenly lost his sanity and began attacking Akiha. The reason for this was because the Tohnos are an aforementioned mixed blood species and were thus
Oh yeah, got that
adverse
primary
to something
instinct.
known as the inversion impulse. Inversion is essentially when
Inversion
the human side of
impulse?
the mixed blood's mind gets taken over by their demonic instincts, turning them feral.
Why they got a demonic side with him too, huh? Okay. Okay, Shiki, let me find out.
In line for a reincarnating dead apostle ancestor known as Roa, which we'll talk about later. For now though, all you need to know is that as a result of this unfortunate circumstance, Shiki inverted far earlier than any normal mixed blood would and attacked his sister Akiha. However, Shiki Nanaya managed to shield Akiha from the attack at the cost of sustaining a fatal wound to his chest. Shiki Nanaya would then wake up in a hospital room with warped memories of his past. He believed that he was Shiki Tohno, the legitimate son of Makihisa Tohno and the older brother of Akiha Tohno, rather than his true identity of Shiki Nanaya. He is also told that the reason he was hospitalized was because he was caught in a car accident, rather than being attacked by Shiki Tohno. More so, he was mysteriously able to see lines running across everything, and merely looking upon them made him feel sick. When he touched the lines on the bed he was laying on, the bed split in half, and while Shiki tried to explain to the doctors about the lines, nobody would believe him. Merely looking at the lines eroded at Shiki's sanity as they revealed the fragility of existence of many things. After 2 weeks, Shiki
And that's the
couldn't
pure
take it.
eyes
He felt
activating,
isolated
right?
and scared, causing him to run away.
Seeing all the stuff on the walls and
His
everything.
injuries prevented him from getting far, causing him to collapse on the grassy field outside of town, where he just simply lay. It was then he heard a woman's voice. She complained that such a small kid sitting in the grass was dangerous, and that he could have been kicked by her. After a bit, the woman decides on a whim that their meeting may have been fate, and introduces herself as Aoko Aozaki. The two then talked, with Aoko being surprisingly open-minded and casual with Shiki despite the fact that he was just a kid. Shiki then begins to refer to her as Sensei, his teacher, due to her demeanor, and becomes very close to her in the short amount of time they spend together. He tries to impress
Word.
her by showing her his ability to kill things, and he casually cuts apart a tree with his eyes, leading Aoko to slap him across the face, reprimanding him for his actions. Aoko imparts to Shiki.
Wait, he
a
says he
lesson
slashed it
about
with
the
his
value of life
eyes?
and teaches him the scope of responsibility he has as someone who can take a life that easily.
How strong is his
Shiki takes
eyes?
all of that to heart and forever remembers the value of every living thing. Aoko then gives Shiki a pair of glasses, Mystic Eye Killers, that makes the lines of death disappear when he wears them. The two then say a farewell after spending a few days together, with Shiki ultimately receiving valuable gifts from Aoko, both physical and not, ones that help
Oh,
change his stance
that's
in
where he
life.
gets them shades from.
He then hears
Okay.
from Makihisa Tohno that he isn't to return to the Tohno mansion, but rather instead live with the Branch family. As such, Shiki packs away to live elsewhere, but not before a familiar red-haired girl gave him a ribbon as a farewell gift to remember her by. Years later, Makihisa Tohno passes away, and thus Shiki's sister Akiha is appointed to the head of the family. Now in power, Akiha orders Shiki to return to the mansion to live with her once again. Accepting this, he returns to find that his sister was all grown up, who now acts very formal and polite as opposed to her shyness as a child. He also discovers that Akiha
Oh,
vacated
that's his
most of the
sister we
residence of the
see in that.
mansion,
Okay.
resulting in only a handful of people remaining to live in it. Those are Shiki himself, Akiha, as well as two twin red-haired maids named Koaku and Hisui that serve both siblings. From here, Shiki's story branches out heavily in 5 different ways depending on the route of choice. Similarly to my Shiro video, I'll go over each
And
one
this must
generally,
come with the
while
game that's
mainly
coming out.
focusing on Shiki's development
All
as a
the
character
5 different
throughout.
routes.
For Arcwade's route, after Shiki is sent home from school early, he runs into Arcwade on the streets. Due to his Nanaya instincts, he impulsively follows her to a house and slices her into 17 pieces of meat. Shocked by his own actions, he retreats in utter denial of what he just did, falling unconscious in the streets. Tomorrow, though,
17
Arcade again, who
pieces?
chases him before casually introducing herself. The truth is, Arcade was a vampire, and thus, while she did die, she simply brought herself back to life, although she was heavily weakened as a result. Rather than kill Shiki, she instead requests that he become her bodyguard to defeat her enemy as punishment for his actions. After mysterious familiars find them and they quickly dispatch of them, Shiki begrudgingly accepts her terms, leading them to go to a hotel to let Arcade rest. In this time, they get acquainted with each other and Arcade teaches Shiki about the vampires, while Shiki tells Arcade more about himself too.
It's definitely different from the first route. That first route was short and sweet to the point. Goodness.
People in the hotel while chasing Arcade and Shiki. The two barely fend him off, with Shiki realizing the next morning that people really did die as a result of their actions and the dead apostle ancestor, making him truly motivated to defeat Nero and protect his town. They then set out the next night,
From my man's skin though.
battling him and coming to a close defeat twice. However, after Shiki witnesses the death of an innocent person, his Nanaya instincts take over and he manages to kill Nero in one powerful attack. A bit later though, Shiki quickly realizes that there are still casualties happening in the city and confronts Arcade about the issue. Arcade then reveals that Nero was never her main target, but merely a secondary enemy that followed her. Rather, Arcade was going after a dead apostle ancestor known as Roa, the dead apostle ancestor who possessed the original Shiki Tohno. Roa was an immortal dead apostle that survives through reincarnation into other bodies. Shiki then decides to once again team up with Arcade in order to beat Roa.
Oh, you on that Orochimaru type stuff where I just want to keep getting other bodies and keep living on.
More and more as Shiki begins to learn that while Arcade was wise and knowledgeable, she never really lived her life as she wanted to. The two spend their time doing pointless things like watching movies and eating fast food, and Arcade seems to genuinely enjoy that normalness. As the two share a quiet moment in
Arcade.
classroom,
So it's not Saber's Arcade. She looked like Saber's Arcade. Okay.
the two eventually make a promise to meet in the classroom once again, so that they would have even more fun the next time.
Just a vampire.
However, soon afterwards, the effects on Shiki killing Arcade at the beginning of the route begin to take effect as Arcade begins having trouble controlling her own bloodlust. She nearly sucks Shiki's blood before Ciel drives Arcade off in order to protect them. Ciel warns Shiki about what Arcade is capable of and how dangerous she is.
Yo, this
But
is
Shiki
a
still wants to survive
crazy
and
relationship.
Arcade and decides to chase after her regardless. He eventually finds Arcade in the same park that they promised to wait at. Despite Arcade's pleas to leave her alone, Shiki then confesses his feelings to her and promises to protect her, to care for her, and overcome everything alongside her. The two then spend the night together. However, in the morning, Arcade disappears, leaving Shiki alone and distraught. He spends his day searching for Arcade, unable to find her.
Okay, Shiki, I see you, my guy.
Arcade's target. He then fights him and finds out that Roa can see similar lines to him and nearly kills Shiki as a result. However, he was saved by Ciel, who then takes him home to recover. As Shiki wakes up though, they hear a rustle in the trees outside of Shiki's window, to which they quickly figure out that Arcade went to face Roa herself despite her deeply injured state. Shiki then tries to convince Ciel to take him to school to kill Roa, to which she initially tells him not to, but then Shiki threatens to sexually assault her right there and there if she didn't. Haha, yes, that's exactly what you do in this situation. Although, I guess there was not much else he could do. Despite his weird proposition, Shiki's conviction gets across to Ciel, who then agrees to let him go fight. As she carries Shiki to school, they then split up.
This
so
show
Shiki finds out
dark.
Arcade facing
Or this novel's dark.
Arcade almost seems to have killed Roa, however Roa ultimately regenerates and deals a fatal wound to Arcade. Shiki holds the dying Arcade in his arms, and tries to get her to drink his own blood in order to let her heal. However, Arcade denies it, merely asking for a kiss instead, and going limp soon afterwards. Shiki then faces Roa, calmer than ever, figuring out that Roa could not actually see true death, but rather only life. Confronting him directly, Shiki exclaims the true nature of seeing death, the fear, sickness, and uncertainty that seeing death brings to a mind, before showing him a true first-hand example of true killing, by stabbing a point of death in the floor, destroying the entire passageway. As Roa lays dying, Ciel appears to finish him off, saying that she killed Roa, and that Shiki has still yet to murder a single person. After Roa's defeat, Shiki waits in the classroom every day, where he promised to meet Arcade again after their battle. A week passes without going on, when suddenly Arcade appears standing beside the window, saying that she was really planning on disappearing, but she instead chose to properly say goodbye since Shiki kept waiting for her. She explains that the reason she pursued Roa is because she drank his blood one time, and that led to his power. So after his defeat, Arcade regained the power he took from her and was able to live. However, she can no longer resist her vampiric impulse and thus decides to lock herself away in her castle. Shiki tries to bargain one more time, telling her to drink his blood so they can keep their promise of staying together. But Archwade says she can't because she likes him.
Oh, okay.
He
Okay.
desperately wants to, but after seeing her smile, he can't bring himself to fight back. Archwade then tells Shiki that he made her really happy before
So
disappearing.
she don't
So
want
at
to
the end,
end up sucking his blood dry and killing him
realizing
because
that
she
this
likes
was fine.
him, but
In the end,
she
kept her
Shiki wants
promise
her
of
to
being
come
together
and stay with her
for
and
a
just
long
suck her
time.
blood anyway.
So,
I mean, suck his blood anyway.
everything had to be fine.
Okay.
But then he denies it. He says to himself how much more he wanted to talk with her, how much more he wanted to show her, and how much more he wanted to see her smile. But despite that, he decided to honor her wish regardless and live life. Then, about a year afterwards, Shiki
Which
travels
understandable.
with Ciel, hunting down the Millennium Castle Briunstad that Archwade rests in. Shiki then destroys the chains binding down Archwade, waking her up, telling her that they can live together in spite of everything. Archwade then happily jumps into Shiki's arms before they continue living together, with Shiki pledging his life to Archwade and promising to not only find a cure for her bloodlust but also protect her. Shiki then takes on an alias, the name Death, and slowly becomes a powerful assassin under Archwade's guidance.
Oh, that's sweet.
As Death, he becomes much more skilled in combat and his eyes become leagues more powerful, to the point that his glasses are no longer able to contain their power. So instead, he must wrap bandages around his head to keep them from killing him. He becomes so powerful that he's able to fight even dead apostle ancestors.
In a way, his ideals like that just kind of
And quickly,
emulated
the name of Death becomes a feared name.
Shirio's in a sense from the
It is
Mythoverse.
during this time that he visits the forest of Einasht to take responsibility for one of Archwade's mishaps in the past and also to get the forest's fruit for Archwade. This is when he runs into Meram Solomon, a dead apostle ancestor working for the church and Ciel's co-worker who calls him She-Killer or Satsujinki, a pun in his name. He then kills the forest and takes the fruit successfully. In another story, Shiki is tasked to kill the newly appointed dead apostle ancestor, Louvre, where he invades his mansion in seconds and kills Louvre as well as his children before any of them have any time to react. By the time that Enhanced Bartham Malloy Lorelei reach Louvre's room, the dead apostle ancestor is dead and his mace was stolen, as Shiki had already killed and raided the castle. There are more potential plot points to Shiki as Death, but those are all stories relevant in Tsukihime 2, so we don't know them yet. Sorry. Next, in Ciel's route, the route plays a lot like Archwade.
What Shiki
except
says,
instead,
slight word.
Shiki interacts with Ciel a lot more in comparison to Archwade's route, like spending time with her in the tea ceremony room. After Shiki kills Archwade, Ciel finds him and
Also, it's the
calls him
second
for
version of
kindness,
this?
letting him stay at her house for the night, and it's at this time that Shiki notices strange tattoos on her body. The rest of the route plays similarly to Archwade's route, except after they kill Nero, Shiki runs into a fight between Ciel and Archwade and finds out that Ciel is actually a member of the Burial Agency.
Oh, so it's basically continuing from the
Subsection of
first
church that
route,
hunts
but
down
then
those that they deem heretical,
okay.
including all vampires, dead apostle or not. However, despite that, Shiki manages to get into some sort of a truce between Ciel despite his friendship with Archwade, and also agrees to work with Ciel to defeat Roa instead. However, the two run into Archwade at night and get into a fight. It is then when Ciel reveals that she is actually immortal and literally cannot die no matter what happens, and is inhuman in that right. The next day, Ciel and Shiki decide to meet in the tea ceremony room. However, they are ambushed by Roa, who brutally incapacitates Ciel and nearly kills Shiki. However, seeing Ciel's bloodied and tortured state gives Shiki the willpower to stand up and kill Roa, slicing at his lines of death. After the fight, they formally say their farewells and Shiki goes back home to rest. However, when he
Oh, this
sleeps,
Roa
he begins
dude's
having
annoying
dreams about
me.
being a French girl in 1976. He saw the life of the girl, the daughter of a baker, who lived a normal life until she began to change and lock.
But ain't she immortal though?
He found that the girl began acting unlike themselves, killing their family and city, drinking their blood until a girl that looked like Archwade killed her instead. More so, Shiki begins having trouble telling what is real and what isn't. He has
How you
trouble
gonna
drinking
just
people's blood,
French
and
girl what?
slowly realizes that after he killed Roa, Roa had reincarnated into him next, and that he was slowly succumbing to his influence. In his madness, he realizes that he wants to see Ciel one more time, stumbling towards the school, and it's there that he sees her again. However, she looks unfamiliar, wearing cold eyes that he does not recognize, covered in tattoos and wielding a massive weapon known as the Seventh Holy Scripture. Shiki knows what this means, that because now he is Roa, Ciel has a responsibility to kill him. Ciel begins to reveal her true motives for coming to the school, that being to investigate Shiki from the get-go. Shiki begins to question whether the kind senior that he always respected was a lie.
What
It's then that it's
in
revealed
the
that the memories of the
heck
bakery girl
is
were
that,
actually Ciel's
bruh?
memories, as she used to be one of Roa's previous hosts. However, for some reason, her body survived even after Roa left her, and thus she was rendered unable to die as long as Roa still existed.
Oh, you
So,
hate to see
Ciel
it, man.
fights Shiki while he tries to run. Eventually, though, he is cornered and ultimately decides to give up, saying that even though it was a lie, their time together was fun. In the end, Ciel can't bring herself to kill Shiki, breaking down crying and
None but a
apologizing.
lie, bruh.
Ciel confesses all the sins she committed, saying that she has to die for all the people she killed and for hurting Shiki. However, Shiki denies all of it, telling her that she deserves happiness just like anyone else, confessing his own love for her and finally bringing Ciel happiness as they sleep together. However, the next day, Shiki goes out while being possessed by Roa, and is ambushed by Arcwade, who pins him down. Arcwade then orders Shiki to leave Ciel and become her servant to find a solution when dealing with Roa, but Shiki denies her proposition and slices her death line, before meeting with Ciel in the street. They run to the school where Ciel decides to fight Arcwade in order to protect Shiki, leading to her own defeat. Finally,
Hey, he just
Arcwade
going around.
with Shiki managing to massively
up
injure
him.
Arcwade while Shiki himself sustains equally massive injuries. Shiki soon realizes that he's almost become one with Roa, and thus decides to kill himself in order to end Roa's existence for good. Arcwade understands, telling Shiki how much she ended up liking him before disappearing, and Shiki stabs himself, cutting his own leg in half while faintly hearing Ciel's crying voice in the distance as his consciousness darkens. Suddenly, Shiki finds himself alive in a hospital bed, with everything in the world being perfectly fine. However, as Shiki spends his day, he notices things are off, such as his maid Kohaku treating him normally despite the apprehensible actions that he did to her while he was possessed, as well as the small visions of a young boy with a scar on his chest. While talking to Ciel, he realizes that the world that he was in was too perfect, and that it was a dream before his death. Until he runs into the kid with the scar.
Forget a
and
love
realizes
triangle. This is like a
that kid
freaking
was
trapezoid right now. Sheesh.
He was Tohno Shiki. That child before him was the original, Nanaya Shiki. The Shiki before the accident. Nanaya tells Tohno that if he were to wake up, a much sadder world would await him. That he may not even survive. That if he were to continue dreaming, he could live happily. However, Tohno tells Nanaya that such a happiness would be a selfish lie, and that he would rather live in a
Yeah, about to say
real
that
world
look like
happiness.
that. Ain't that him?
Acknowledging this, his past self as Nanaya disappears, with Tohno now forgetting his entire past completely, with no possibility of ever recalling it ever again. As such,